Hello and welcome back to the Puncher's Chance podcast, and welcome to the preview show. We're having a look at the boxing this weekend, and it's a Matchroom double header. We've got Carlos Adames and Amo Williams fighting in Florida, and then George Liddard, Tyler Denny. I had to double check there which arena it's in. It's in the Copper Box. I wanted to say this screams York Hall. I don't know why in my head.
Well, it was his last fight against Kieran Conway was in the York Hall.
In my head, it screamed York Hall, but it's Copper Box, George Liddard, Tyler Denny, and it's stacked with Matchroom talent. It's the same old crop that they tend to wheel out.
Yeah.
A really exciting card. We're going to start talking about that one. If you like the sound of that, obviously stick around and subscribe, all that good stuff. George Liddard, Tyler Denny is an interesting fight because obviously Denny comes off the back of the only sort of notable loss being Hamza Shiraz, and had quite an impressive meteoric rise kind of leading up to that. He's not going to be out of this fight by any stretch.
No, and I'm a big fan of Tyler Denny. I remember we actually interviewed him, didn't we, ahead of that Hamza Shiraz fight, and he came into that fight up in Wembley with a lot of confidence, and I wouldn't blame him. He just came off beating Felix Cash, another Matchroom fighter in Birmingham. What was it, like 4 days or 5 days earlier? So, it's going to be a tough test, but I'm not being funny. When we spoke about George Liddard against, Kieran Conway, York Hall, we said, this is a big test. This is a step up. And look how impressive he looked. Conway's never been stopped. I don't think you backed him to stop him. No. I know that Ben backed him to stop Conway, but I wasn't expecting it to be that dominant. And it was the first ever time that Conway's been stopped as well. And I think for a fighter like Liddard, when you're on this rise, it's those small little wins of, I was the first man to stop that bloke. That's confidence. I'm going to take that into this fight. What's Tyler Denny done that I haven't done yet? Or what has no one done to Tyler Denny that I can do to him? And I feel like that's what Liddard's doing at the moment. He's sort of taking fights and ticking them off one by one, and it's the perfect route. He's gone up the sort of the traditional way, which is always good to see, and hopefully it is for me, it's not a 50-50, but it's a close 50. It's closer to a 50-50 than we've seen in the past with Georgie Liddard's opponents, but it should be good.
What I like about Liddard is you sort of talk about that natural step up, and he's taken that natural route. But what I like about him is it feels like I can't think of a performance where you go, that was at the same level or a step back from the last performance. He's built on every performance. Every performance has got a little bit better, a little bit more impressive. As the opponents have stepped up, so has he. And I think that's a really strong, natural progression that is exciting when you're talking about prospects. And yeah, he's well deserving of a fight like this and an opponent like this. I do think Tyler Denny will ask him some questions. It'd be good to see whether or not he's got the answers to those. I think Matchroom, obviously, and a lot of people, myself probably included, thinks he probably does have the answer to those questions, but that's what we'll have to wait and see. And then if that fight isn't enough to wet your whistle, then all those ones below it. Jimmy Sains fighting Derek Azazi. That's a really exciting fight. Derek Azazi's a man who's been in there with Tyler Denny. And Georgie Liddard, and Denzel Bentley. So he's certainly
took Denny and Liddard the distance.
Yeah, he's seen levels, and Jimmy Sains is another one, much like Liddard, and obviously same weight and same gym, same promotional company.
Can we go back to Liddard though? I've got a question, and you can answer this down. Is Liddard one of the best youngsters in British boxing at the moment?
I've got a good mate of mine, Regan Slaymaker. Will have you believe yes.
Yeah, well, I agree with him. Whoever Regan, I agree with you, mate.
I would say
you got Moses Atama, you've got Adam Azim. You've got these sort. All right, then, is he the best British fighter on the verge of winning a world title?
I don't know if he's on the verge of winning a world title yet. He's talented. He's in that conversation. Yeah, he's only 23 years of age. He's got loads of time on his side.
Top three then. You don't sit on the fence. Top three, yes or no? Do you put him top two? Moses Atama is probably number one.
Moses Atama undoubtedly number one.
Adam Azim, number two? Or would you put Georgie Liddard as number two?
Yeah, maybe Azim number two. I think you've probably got... Though you could argue that Liddard's done more. It depends if you're talking sort of level now. Level now, he's absolutely there. Higher ceiling, I think someone like maybe Visioli, Tiah-Mai, Ayton, maybe Adam Maka, people like that you might say have a slightly higher ceiling, but Yeah, he is well,
but he's been
truly
tried and
around there.
tested though, hasn't he, Liddard, compared to those fighters?
And he's a British champion, and deservedly so.
And he's fighting for the European, and that sort of title is the title that you win, and then you're on the verge of eliminators, and that's what he wants now moving forward. I read a piece that he did, I think with Sky Sports, he did an interview with, and he was saying about that he wants to get through this fight against Denny. He never looks over an opponent, so he knows what he's getting himself into on Saturday night in London. But he wants those sort of world title eliminators. And that's what I like about him. He hasn't gone straight in with, I want those world title fights. He knows where he's at, and he knows where the division's at the moment as well. And he's probably thinking, I'm not going to be calling out the big boy names. Give me an eliminator. Because I'm not being funny. You look at some of the divisions at the moment, those eliminator fights that are happening, the way some of these world champions are acting, you can just be handed over the world title.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've got, I think if you look in WBC, obviously it's Adama Zamo Williams we've got this weekend is in his division. You've got Janabek's just been stripped of the IBF but kept his WBO, I believe. So there is room out there for fights. I think he will, albeit like you say, he's talking the right way and he's moving the right way. He will be keeping one eye on Adama Zamo Williams and have his eye on that.
Do you reckon that's why they've put him on the same night, obviously across the pond? But
I think it's probably a happy coincidence, but I do think it's a happy one at that. I think he'll keep his eye on the world title level, and like I said, with the way he stepped up his performances time after time, it's hard to argue anything other than that he is at some point going to get to that level if he can get through this one.
He's exciting. That's what he is. And,
but I'm
he's got a lot of potential.
Yeah, he's only 23 years. I'm trying not to get too excited, but he has been very impressive every time I've watched him. So I suppose on that he does deserve a degree of credit.
You talked about his age there. Do you think people forget sometimes how old, these are timers, these are Azeem's, Liddard are? Do people forget they're 23? They're not in their late 20s. They're in their early 20s. They're not even peaking yet. And I think that's the scary bit with all of those names I've just named. They're not even at their peak.
Yeah.
So can you imagine now if they continue to build and rise and take fights and all and learn and develop? Imagine when they get to that world title fight. They won't go in underdogs.
No,
they'll go in far from it. They'll be heavy favourites probably.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, there's something to be said, and obviously people grow into their bodies earlier or later, but certainly not in your early 20s as a professional fighter. And you've got unbelievable talent like Abdullah Mason, that's obviously world champion at 21. I believe he's the youngest male world champion. You've got Xander Zayas, I think, is the youngest male unified champion. He's probably a similar age to George Liddard.
He fought the other week, didn't he? Against Baru.
Yeah. And then obviously in the female division you've got Gabrielle Fundora, who's undisputed at an impressively young age, and her name escapes me. But there's a Mexican fighter, I think, that's only 18 years of age, that's a world champion. So it does happen. But like you say, the likes of the Moses Atalmas and stuff that are so young, they are. You can see why you maybe just take that little bit more time of building them, so that you not only give them time to build physically, but also mentally and as a fighter. So not rushed Georgie Liddard, but if you're talking back to back Kieran Conway, Tyler Denny, you're taking very much the right steps in the right direction.
They're building him nicely, aren't they, Match?
And then Jimmy Sains is one as well that sort of has been put, you'd say, ultimately a fight or two behind George Liddard. And you imagine that if or when George Liddard vacates the British title, it will be Jimmy Sains that's first in line to take it. Obviously, he's the English champion. Those two have, without maybe necessarily having it themselves, there has been a little competition between them. They're both big hitting English middleweights out of the same gym, same promotional company, same neck of the woods. And it's been exciting to see. I really like Jimmy Sains. He's, again, really talented. And if he can continue to stop people and stop Derek Azazi in the way he stopped a number of other fighters, then that's a real statement.
He's a good character, isn't he? And I remember watching something over Christmas time. Matchroom, not very happy, used the puncher's chance.
They did, yeah.
He was on that when he
quiz,
with Dave Allen. Yeah, come on, Matchroom, what are you playing at? We still haven't had our money. No, he's a good fighter, and I'm just looking back at his record here. And Troy Coleman for the vacant middleweight English title, and now he's defending it. He's exactly what you just said. He's patiently waiting now for Liddard to make that next move, make that next step up, and then he's going straight in for that title. And he's another one that has been built nicely by Matchroom. He's gradually gone through the rounds through. He's had a couple of 4-rounders, 6-rounders, 8-rounders, won the Southern area in, at the Copper Box where he's fighting on Saturday night. And, last time out to win, go from that to the English title, that sometimes that's someone's ceiling is the English title. But for him to break through that and do it in quite good fashion to then fight Osayi, who is, been in there with, as we said, Liddard, Denny, Denzel Bentley even. All right, didn't go his way that night. Got badly stopped, I think. It's exciting. And I think that's what I like about these Matchroom cards. They put on good undercard fights now. Last year we were complaining about sort of the quality and depth of the cards, but I feel like if you tune in from whatever time it starts on DAZN, I think you're going to be entertained because the matchups are good. Do I think Jimmy Sains wins? Probably, yeah. But there's a lot as I can ask questions of him, and it's the same with Visioli as well. You're one of your favourites.
Yeah,
he's making another step up, and that's what you want to see. Especially with Visioli. We were talking in a couple months back now, or probably a couple of weeks ago actually, with Visioli, the amount of times he's been fighting. He went over to the States, has had that learning fight over there, and he's coming back now and has gained so much experience from that. And
he came through in his last fight. He came through a really tough fight for the English title.
Yeah. First main event as well.
Yeah, and it was a tough fight, and he was against a very talented opponent. And people were saying, "Oh, this guy's supposed to be, the future of the sport," and he's struggling in an English title fight. But he's a young lad, and this is Levi Giles is another fighter that's been at that English title level and around area for a long, long time, and he's been there and he's seen a lot.
Yeah,
he will learn a lot from this Giorgio Visioli. He will have learned a lot from that last performance as well. So,
he's taken, looking at his record, Reece Bellotti the distance, split decision loss against Gomez Jr.
Yeah.
Gomez Jr. a couple years ago was, it was a decent level fighter.
Another English champion as well, I think. So it's a good matchup in terms of that. And then it's another one they're taking their nice time with Visioli. And
it's always good. Well, and especially now where you can see what they're doing, and I think you look to that main event, Liddard is the example of what they're building with Sains, with Visioli, of that's what we want them to be. But this is our sort of
and Dalton Smith, you would have said, would probably be
100%. If you're looking at an example, that's the one everyone should be looking at, going, right, I'm going to trust the process.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they're doing perfectly here. Yeah.
Lely Buttigieg, another talented fighter again from Essex, similar neck of the woods to Liddard and Sains. Another really talented fighter. I remember watching him on a top tier card as the main event there, and I mean this in the absolute most respect, and especially now to top tier and Johnny Clark, because the level of their shows have gone up so much. Mm-hmm. But the fighters they had on there are obviously hugely talented fighters, but Buttigieg turned up and he just showed this level above, and you knew watching him, he was just this little cut above all the other fighters, and he turned. He was so professional, got the job done. So I think he's one that since then I've always kept just kind of one eye on, because like I said, he's gone about it the right way, like all of these guys, and he's young, he's talented. But yeah, that was a real kind of, okay, yeah, this guy's got a bit. He is that just little step above. So he's in another really exciting fight. And then Taylor Bevan is a man. I was mentioned to speak to Taylor because I was in the gym with him the other day shooting something. Not with him, but he was there as well. But he was busy sparring when I was there.
So a little exclusive there for the
yeah. I think it's coming. It's on my social media. We're doing a documentary with a young Welsh amateur in Harris Allen. So that's what I'm shooting at the moment. Taylor was there. I meant to chat to him, but I didn't have a chance. But for somebody who was so talented as an amateur, it's impressive how well he's taken to the professionals.
Yeah. Well, and we've seen it so many times when, pros turn over, especially young pros turning over from the amateurs, and they don't really have that sort of spite in their punches that they should have as pros. And Taylor Bevan is that, going back to an example, he's that example of, turning over comfortably, and he probably his sort of fighting style suits the pro ranks now, and he's built on it, and he's looking impressive as sort of the fights go on. But there's English titles on this card. Taylor Bevan's past that, I think personally, past that level of domestic fights of fighting people from Wales. I think he's already probably got one eye on potentially, the British and all that, because I don't understand why the English and Welsh is so titles that they're both same in terms of the level, but both
the
Welsh title and English area titles.
The area titles are, yeah.
But they're looked at differently, aren't they? Because people go, well, it's a Welsh champion.
It's often. I think the danger is there's often a smaller pool of fighters.
Yeah. But it says a lot when how many times do we see a Welsh title fight, and look on this card, we've got 2 English title fights on it. So.
Yeah. I think it's a smaller pool, and I think like you say, that's slightly more difficult. But Taylor Bevan's unbelievably talented, and like you say, I think when you look at it now, back to back 8-rounders, if he gets through this in similar fashion, you once again are starting to look at, okay, how can we start to position him for something like a British title?
It's only a matter of time, I think, as well with Taylor Bevan.
Yeah.
And we record this podcast, if anyone doesn't know, right next door to the Utilita Arena. So it won't be too long before he perhaps is selling out that, or, we talked about on the last podcast, Ryan Garner against Kakakshe, potentially at St. Mary's in Southampton. We've seen him on a Queensberry show before, I want to say, Taylor Bevan.
Yes,
in
we did,
Bournemouth, didn't we?
He did, yeah.
He could perhaps turn up on that card and have a 10-rounder, perhaps his first 10-rounder of his career there, maybe. But
obviously the difficulty is as well that you've got Troy Williamson, who just picked up the British off Callum Simpson,
yeah.
And he's having a fight. And then I think he's also I believe the British Boxing Board of Control have sanctioned a voluntary defence against Callum Simpson as the rematch, which is going to be made. And those are 2 fighters you'd actually say are probably some way past the British title level at this point. So
yeah,
in terms of that as a challenge, you won't that's definitely not a fight you rush anyone into, but you have to just kind of wait and manufacture, and the right opportunity will come at the right time for a talented fighter like him. And then Adam Macker, he is another one that has turned over, and as a featherweight has just smashed people out of there, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's the fighter now, Adam Macker, if I remember rightly, after making his pro debut in America, got on the microphone straight after and called out, was it Inoue?
Yes,
he said
he wanted Inoue, something like that. Yeah. And he's 18 years of age, so he's
fair,
got,
like, we talk about confidence and all that. Fair play,
Yeah, he's got that in abundance, certainly.
Yeah.
No, it's impressive. Don't get me wrong, he's nowhere near fighting Inoue.
He'll probably never fight Inoue, I think.
Well, no, because by the time he's at that level, you imagine Inoue's
long gone,
feet up, gloves hung, all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, 18 years of age to be stopping grown men. It's similar, following a similar arc to Tiah-Mai Ayton we've spoken about, where at that age to be doing what they're doing is hugely impressive.
It is, and we talk about fighters. Well, we cover a lot of small hall, don't we? And we see these fighters, we see the struggles and all, and of them having to, sell tickets and all that pressure. And they still have to sell tickets and all, but they've got an absolute golden opportunity, haven't they, on these cards? They're in a very privileged position, and it's good to see that they're not taking it for granted. They're still putting in dominant performances, and we're still getting excited about them, especially Tiah-Mai Ayton. I feel like she's a world champion in weighting, and it's mental to say that for how early she is in her career. But you can just look at her, the way she goes about her fights, her business and all that. It's only a matter of time. And that's exciting. And listen, we say it a lot. British boxing, the future of British boxing, especially with youngsters coming through, is in a very good place.
Yeah, when you look at this card, I was just double checking then, I wasn't losing my mind. Jimmy Sains and Taylor Bevan at 25 years of age are the 2 joint oldest on this card. Beyond that, you've got 23, George Liddard, 22 would be Visioli, 21 would be Buttigieg, and Connor Mitchell, I think it is, who's on the undercard as well. And then you've got Adam Macker at 18,
It makes you sick, man, when you see someone 18.
The average age of this card is probably lower than the average age of this podcast, with obviously Ben hiking that average up considerably. But yeah, the all of that is pretty mental stuff. And to jump across the states as well,
let's go back in time.
Yeah,
back in time.
They're behind. Back in time. Jump. Obviously, Adames Ammo Williams, we were meant to get a little while back, and it's come back around in Florida. It's an exciting fight. I mean, I think we were sort of saying whether or not Ammo Williams you'd say necessarily deserves this opportunity. He's built himself back up well since that Shiraz loss.
100%.
But then obviously he did lose to Shiraz quite considerably, and then Shiraz got beaten, albeit it wasn't officially, got beaten by Carlos Adames as well. So from that point of view, you would imagine Adames goes into this a considerable favourite.
You do, and I think with that Shiraz fight, well, listen, we know the ins and outs of that fight with Shiraz. He wasn't 100% fit in that fight, but with Williams, he's sort of taken that fight. I think when we go back to that Queensberry versus Matchroom card, I think everyone looked at that card and went, that's a Queensberry win straight away for Hamza Shiraz. I think everyone was giving Williams perhaps a chance in it, but he's built, like you said, built himself back nicely. Should have had Adames, I think, on the Shakur Stevenson Teofimo Lopez card. Correct me if I'm wrong, please.
I think it was, yeah.
So to have it, and he's gone 10, 9, 12 rounds in his last 3 fights, which is great. He's got those rounds in the bank and all. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he pulls it off, because I think Williams is the sort of fighter that feeds off having momentum and confidence of, that loss to Hamza Shiraz probably hit him a bit bad and probably knocked his confidence like it would for anyone. But for him to go back out and build himself back up nicely, what was it, 5 months after that loss, he came back and then fought 3 times, 2 times last year, once already this year. And, we're only in March and he's fighting again, and he's fighting for a world title, which is mental. You got to give him credit, but Carlos Adames, we know what he brings. Very stubborn opponent. He's tough, he's brutal, and he'll ask questions of Williams, but it probably end up going a similar way to what the fight was with Shiraz, where it's got 12 rounds written all over it, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, Adames is a really talented fighter. Yeah. I think probably going into that Shiraz fight, I was slightly maybe dismissive of his abilities just out of excitement for Shiraz. But, he's a world champion with I think it's 75% or so knockout percentage. So he's got the power in his hands, but technically he was really, really good. Against the taller fighter in Shiraz, he was able to...
The only concern...
nullify him somewhat.
I think if you're looking at concerns for Adames, just looking, he hasn't fought since that Shiraz fight.
Yeah, but he's not really...
Over a year ago.
He's not a fighter that stays hugely active and fights all the time, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, he's fought once every year since 2022.
Yeah, so I don't think it makes too much of a difference. I think he is. Do
you think that plays into the advantage for Williams? The activity. We talk a lot about activity with the youngsters coming through. Sort of active means you're going to get better quicker and all that. So
I think it does make a difference. And we've seen even with very seasoned pros, someone like Joseph Parker, that when he's active, he's at his best. But I don't think it'll be enough. I do think Adames is going to win this fight.
Especially at world level, activity probably doesn't help you.
I think it can. And I think some fighters need to stay active and some fighters can get away with fighting less often, and that's just how they are. And I think Adames will be just fine in this fight. I think the performance will be really good. And on the undercard of this one as well, it's a little sort of me versus you. It's a good job it's just me and you here today, because Teremoana,
yes,
that's your guy.
My man.
Omari Jones.
Your man.
Man, I've interviewed. We've done a podcast with him, so I'll try and link it up here somewhere if you're watching on YouTube.
Which one? Where would it go?
Somewhere, I can't remember.
Up there somewhere, is it?
I'm too tired to work out where it goes on the screen, but I'll try and remember to link it. But yeah, Omari Jones is a really exciting fighter, obviously off the back of the Olympics. He's a great talk. He's a lovely guy. You reached out to us to come on the podcast, and I just think he's a really lovely bloke. So which one do we think is going to have a more impressive performance? That's my question.
Well, my simple answer, it was a fantastic interview with Omari Jones and a great talker, like you said, but yeah, I think Teremoana is going to probably get another stoppage. I feel like his career at the moment, in a way, stalling. They've talked about, wanting to build him as a fighter, but they seem to be slowing down a little bit more.
Yeah, I think having Opataya no longer with Tasman fighters and no longer fighting on the Matchroom cards, that was a natural...
We nearly went 2 podcasts without talking about Zuffa boxing.
We did.
Mental.
But yeah, no longer having him and having Teremoana as that natural undercard, I don't think will help him.
No.
But then you've got Sky Nicholson fighting Down Under, which I believe Teremoana is set to be on the undercard for.
I would be very shocked if he isn't, yeah.
I think I saw it on the poster. He's on there, and you've got Jake Wiley on there as well. So there's Matchroom have a bit, and he is included in that in terms of talent to put out there. So,
but I think it gets to
right.
a point, especially with heavyweights, where you can build them for a couple of fights, but when it gets to like, you know, where Teremoana's at now, he's maybe one or two more, and then that's it. Now roll the dice. Let's see how good he is against, I don't know, someone from the UK who's in the top 20 in the UK, someone like that can sort of ask questions of him, like a Dillion White sort of style fight. You know, someone like that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think Dillion White's probably too high a level.
Who's been there and got the Otto Warlin, maybe, who's been there, fought the best.
Someone like Franklin Ignatius, just as like a tough. Because I think the problem is he is very good, and he's huge, and he's powerful, and he's awkward.
Good character as well.
Yeah, and he's got that awkward style, and he's very talented, obviously off the back of his career as an amateur as well. But I think they've struggled to find journeyman to develop him with. I think
put him in against the one that went toe to toe with Johnny Fisher in Monaco. That'll probably be probably be a good watch.
There's plenty you could find out there as tests for him. I just think, you know, keep building him, and an opportunity will come. I think an Otto Warlin and Dillion White, I think it's probably too soon. I think you're probably looking at...
But those are the fights now where once he stopped building, when it's time to sort of, right, let's see what he's about, I think they're the sort of fights that he should be looking at. Because I think, Dillion White, apparently I read somewhere online that there's rumours of him potentially fighting Anthony Joshua.
Yeah, they're talking about it. I mean, the issue with the heavyweights is there is this real sort of jump. There very much seems to be sort of tomato cans at the bottom, a handful of decent heavyweight journeymen, and then you have this kind of area title level British English title,
like 30, mush, 40
and then there's this huge jump up to world title those kind of world title litmus tests that are just outside the world title level, and then there's obviously the world champions as well. So it's really hard to kind of make that jump without it feeling like this huge jump, which he is going to have to make at some point. And I do think he's shown us enough that he probably can make that jump. Yeah.
And it's a bit like with Omari Jones as well. You know, how long are we going to be waiting around for him? So another dominant performance on Saturday night. Is in Florida as well.
Yeah, so it's in his sort of hometown neck of the woods. It's an exciting performance. And again, like you say, if it is a question of when they are performing like they are, you start to go, well, how long can you continue to perform like this before we have to chuck you in there with somebody that's a much higher level?
And I think the sooner they do it, I think the better it'll be for their careers.
Yeah, probably.
Moving forward, so it doesn't,
But, you know, he's got an 8-rounder. This one is his first 8-rounder. You know, you maybe go another 8-rounder, and then you are starting to look at the sort of American equivalents of the sort of area titles and the...
What are they?
Different titles. It's the NATO or North America. There is NABO, the North America Boxing Association, have a sort of titles and stuff. I don't know it ins and outs of it, but...
Claim a couple of them then, maybe.
Yeah, there's stuff out there for him, and then obviously at that point you are then onto the world level, so... Exciting stuff. We'll do a smattering of predictions while the Boxing News app is still.
Is it still not working?
I think we leave it.
Do we stop shouting them out now?
We leave that in 2025.
No, they have been doing stuff in 2026.
Well, barely.
But
no, we'll leave it as it is. George Liddard, Tyler Denny.
Liddard. Stoppage.
I think it's a Liddard stoppage.
Yeah. I don't want it to be a bad stoppage because I am a big fan of Denny.
My only basis on that is I've actually met both guys.
Yeah.
And Tyler Denny feels considerably smaller to me than Liddard does, in the same way as he did against Hamza Shiraz. I remember when I interviewed Hamza Shiraz.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was looking up at him and the frame he filled out, and obviously now he's moved up to super middleweight. And Tyler Denny doesn't feel like a big middleweight.
So eye level with me, wasn't he? So
so that's purely just
like
off feeling.
6'8", so
like, don't get me wrong. Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong. He is a middleweight, but I just feel like George Liddard, with the power he's got and the size he's going to have,
and the run he's been on, it sort of goes into that stoppage territory of getting a result.
Jimmy Sains. Now this one's a really tough one. I think if he does get a stoppage, it will probably be mid to late rounds at best.
Ooh, yeah.
And I am going to predict he will stop Derek Azadi.
He gets another stoppage back to back. Troy Coleman was 4th round stoppage, I want to say.
I mean, he's at like a 90% knockout rate, so it's not a...
It's easy.
It's not a hedge bet. Visioli, do we see him beating Giles?
Yeah. But I don't know if it goes a distance.
Yeah,
or not.
I do. I think it'd be a wider than last English title fight points decision.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. So we can't.
Yeah. So
we'll be on the same points.
Guaranteed winner.
Yeah.
Buttigieg, I think, will probably get a stoppage. He's
got 10 rounds to
I think
work with,
Buttigieg, Bevan and Mackerel should probably get a stoppage, and I hope they do.
Well, apparently Bevan's fighting an Argentinian. So do you want to go back on your theory right now?
He is fighting an Argentinian.
Yeah. Thank God. I thought I read the flag wrong.
That is...
Well, you said it now, so you've gone against...
and he's fighting an
Are
Argentinian...
you leaving that in? Like we're leaving boxing news in 2025.
He's fighting an Argentinian that's coming down from light heavyweight. I think he might be taking the points. I wouldn't... you don't
Changing
stop... You do not stop an Argentinian.
I wish I didn't say that.
You don't.
You don't stop. All right, then. I'll agree with you.
You don't stop an Argentinian.
No,
you just don't do it.
It'd be good, though, for him to go 8 rounds, probably, for Bevan.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Adames, Ammo Williams, I think Adames will win it reasonably wide and sort of 8-4, sort of neck of the woods.
Adames could either get the late stoppage or, like you said, sort of win via a wide points decision, yeah. I agree.
And then we'll do one each on this one. I think Omari Jones is going to knock out his opponent, and you think Teremoana...
It's going to knock out his opponent, yep, stop him.
There we go, simple as that.
Happy
if you guys like the
days.
sound of all of that, then obviously stick around for 2 podcasts pretty much every week. You can follow us on Spotify if you prefer just the audio versions, or obviously subscribe on YouTube for the video versions, all that good stuff. And we'll see you all next week.
Punches chance. Punches chance podcast.